Week 14 of the NFL, there are a lot of games that have playoff implications, and we've quantified that here via Sportsline on the Inside the Lines team. Of course, a lot of head-to-head matchups here as well, current with the win, with a loss. We're going to break it all down for you right now on HQ. So we're back here with Mackenzie Brooks and a very festive Damian Harris joining us here in the spirit. He's ready for Christmas.
Y'all ready for Christmas or what?
I mean, we are definitely ready. And Thanksgiving in our rear view. We're already done with Thanksgiving, even though that was a week ago.
Right.
So what we're going to do here is Ken's from her team is going to sort of lay out what's at stake with some notable games with playoff implications. And then Damian's going to give us his thoughts on the field when it comes to those games. Tonight's a big one. Cowboys and Lions. What's at stake here, Ken's?
I'd go as far to call it a playoff eliminator here. I mean, this is a Dallas team that's around 24% chance right now. They lose tonight. That drops them under a 10% chance to win. They just have to win out, which is an objectively hard thing to do, even if you have a quote-unquote favorable end of the schedule here. They're just not going to jump teams like the Rams, teams like the Seahawks, teams like the Niners here. And when you have the Eagles in your division, that's also a very, very tough spot to be. On the other side, with the Lions, now they sit around a 37% chance. That could skyrocket up with a win here tonight, but goes down to around a 19% chance with a loss. But when we look at the numbers for Detroit specifically, obviously we're looking at what's going on in the conference around them and their division and the records. We're also looking at the roster and who's healthy and who's not, and just your power ranking and having to downgrade the talent of your team, right? So, and we have to account for that as well. So that's why you're seeing pretty pessimistic takes from us on the Lions or the Cowboys to even make the playoff.
So that would be Amon-Ra St. Brown, questionable with an ankle injury, practically the entire offensive line for Detroit. Dame, what stands out to you about this Cowboys-Lions matchup?
Well, it's going to be all the injuries for the Detroit Lions. I mean, the wide receiver room is depleted. Up front, they're not very healthy. And, the key point for this Lions offense is the running back room. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. Can they run the football against this revamped Cowboys defense? I'm not sure they can, especially with the injuries up front. And if they can't run the ball, this is going to be tough sledding for them, because on the other side of the football, the Cowboys offense is just, everybody's playing superhero ball. Dak should be in the MVP conversation. I'm just going to go ahead and set it. He's second in the league in pass yards, second in the league in touchdowns, only behind Drake May, who is the MVP front runner right now. You look with George Pickens and the addition that he's made to this offense, along with CeeDee Lamb. Javonte Williams has found a new home. He's found success. He's helped this offense become balanced, so where they can run the ball and throw the ball. They can play action off of it, and it just opens up so many things for Dak in this offense. So it's going to be a tough challenge for the Detroit Lions. Again, offensively, they don't have a lot of their weapons healthy, and the key is just going to be, can they run the football against this Cowboys defense?
And this was already a team decimated by injury last year when they were the one seed, really getting in their way.
It's a different side of the ball.
Correct. It's just been tough for Dan Campbell and company here from a health concern perspective. All right, you mentioned the race for the NFC North right now, which pits the Bears and the Packers, which will play the first of two games over the next 3 weeks. I'm curious what the numbers say, because even though Chicago's right now the one seed, the better record by a half game, there seems to be maybe a thought that they're due to regress. The metrics don't like them. What do the numbers say when it comes to this game, this race, this particular team?
As far as Chicago and the pessimism you'll see across the board, and you even see it reflected in sports books as well, is Chicago in December. As silly as it sounds, like, this is the back half of a schedule that becomes a gauntlet here. You're either playing at home in the cold or you're playing a top 10 defense the rest of the way out here. So it's great that they have the cushion that they gave themselves. They're going to need the cushion. Now, both of these teams will stay above a 75% chance to make the playoff, even with a loss here. This is about the division race, right? This is what you want to talk about. Chicago goes from a 41% chance to a 70% chance with a win, but down to 27 with a loss. And you see basically a very similar impact here with Green Bay, 53% to 67 with the win, 22 with a loss. So again, this is...
Mackenzie, Tommy, I got a question. Why is everybody waiting on the Bears to crack? I mean, is it Caleb Williams? Do they not want to see Ben Johnson have success this fast?
Let me ask you something.
What's going on?
So Dave,
we can't just believe in the hype. What's going on here?
All right, by the way, are you a big point differential guy? Because the Bears were actually negative point differential before their win over the Eagles, and they're still only +6 in that department. So that's only one added metric.
Up to you.
That's what people say.
I'll say this, Tommy Trent. I'll say this. There are much more important statistics that contributing to winning than point differential. Now, I know that sounds crazy. People are probably going to look at me and think that I've got two heads right now. But when you talk about turnover margin, when you talk about red zone efficiency, when you talk about third down, how you handle end of game situations, I know that this game is about scoring more points than the other team. And clearly the Chicago Bears have done that. They're 9-3. They're the number one team in the NFC. But I just don't think point differential is the biggest stat that contributes to how good a team really is. But what I will say is this Chicago Bears team is good. we have to face the facts. They're not the same Chicago Bears of old. Ben Johnson has come into Chicago and brought a new energy, a spark, a mentality, a sort of discipline that you have to follow as a player, or else you're going to get replaced. And I think the players in the Bears organization know that. And guess what? They've all bought in, and it starts with Caleb Williams. He's playing phenomenal football. He's playing more of the quarterback position as opposed to the playmaker position. What I mean by that, Ben Johnson has challenged Caleb Wilson to identify the defense at the line of scrimmage, make adjustments, and then call the plays that we need to be called, and then operate them and execute them at a high level. It's not just snap the ball, run around and see who's open, which Caleb Williams has been used to. So this offense has been really clicking. It's been on the shoulders of Caleb Williams, and he looks like he's embraced that. He's not shying away from the attention. He's saying, put the onus on me. I will spread the message to the players, and we will all buy into this system. So this is going to be a really competitive game. I will say, I think it would be almost stoic with the Chicago Bears being the #1 seed right now if that got derailed by the team in green and gold being the Packers. It seems like that would be a pretty normal storyline, but we'll just have to see how this one plays out.
All right, good on good at Lambeau this weekend. If we go to the AFC North, it's mid versus mid. It's 6-6 versus 6-6.
That's nice of you.
It is nice of me.
I'm trying to.
Yeah,
I mean, these are two teams that got booed off their own home field last week.
Yeah, they really did. So I'm trying to be Switzerland and play down the line here. But in terms of the numbers, are we seeing something other than down the line? Is there a preferable team to come out of this thing here when it comes to the North?
I mean, when you think about the AFC North, both of these teams, their only chance really to make the playoffs is win the division. They're both really out of that wild card contention from a numbers standpoint. So right now they basically have the full pie of winning the division. It's Steelers versus Ravens. So with a win, either of these teams go from around that 50% and jump up to a 70% chance. If you win this game, you're now just in the driver's seat, in control to take the division. Now, if they end up splitting, it's not that deep, but it is the opportunity to have two head-to-heads over these teams is going to be massive for you. So that's why you see such a jump and such a swing with a win and loss to win the division. Obviously, these head-to-heads will be massive because they're really the only two we're looking at to come out of this division here.
When you talk about mid versus mid, look at these two teams. I mean, thank you for laying out all the numbers, Mackenzie, but you're talking about two quarterbacks who have played at MVP calibers for most of their career that aren't playing that way right now. Obviously, a lot of that is due to injury, but when healthy, neither Aaron Rodgers or Lamar Jackson have played particularly well. The run game has not really been a factor for either team. I mean, I'm especially disappointed with the Ravens because you've got Derrick Henry, who is he's still got the juice. He can still run the ball effectively. I know he had some fumbling issues at the beginning of the season, and I'm not sure if that scared them away from using him as much as he's used to being used. But also you have to factor in some of the offensive line play as a contributor to that as well. And then you look at both of these defenses. I mean, the steel curtain isn't really the steel curtain anymore. It's more like a linen curtain, if you will. And then you look at the Baltimore Ravens. We've been begging, where has this Ravens defense been all season long? Raquan Smith, we want to see him step up. Guys like Marlon Humphrey, we've got Kyle Hamilton. They've got the players to do it. They just haven't risen to the occasion. And both of these teams are sitting here with the records that they have. So when I watch this matchup tonight, which team is going to play better? Which team is just going to play with more of a sense of urgency, looking at this as a potential playoff elimination game? And ultimately, which quarterback is going to play better? I mean, again, both of them have been banged up. Neither have played their best football. I mean, I would think that Lamar Jackson has the better chance of going out and having a good performance and leading his team to a victory tonight. But there have been a lot of questions and concerns about what is really wrong with Lamar Jackson. Because, again, when he's healthy out there, he just doesn't look like the same MVP caliber Lamar Jackson.
We also have to talk about, as far as questions and concerns, TJ Watt. It feels like a necessary character in here. Now, there are not many players outside of quarterbacks that can really move the needle in a model, depending on if you're healthy or not. TJ Watt is one of them, right? The Ravens right now are around a 62% chance to win this game. If he is out or seriously limited, that goes to a 70% chance. Like, there is this huge difference when he is healthy. Now, that's different than just being on the field, because we saw last year he was almost ineffective when he was there, but he wasn't really himself. He couldn't stop the run at all. So the difference of him being here and not being here could be big for the Steelers' playoff chances in general. It's obviously huge for this game, but interesting to have a player like him outside of quarterbacks that can really move the needle in the model.
Be a difference maker, a tangible difference maker there. Let's go from one game on CBS to another, which is the AFC South. Colts and Jags getting real juicy here, Ken.
Now, the Jags are sitting pretty, which was something that I never thought I was ever going to say. I mean, 2 claps for them for what they're doing. I don't know how I feel about Trevor Lawrence, but they're getting it done. The Colts, I didn't think we'd be in this situation either. I mean, they lose this game, they drop to around a 50% chance to make the playoff, which is crazy to think after what we saw coming from them earlier this year. So same with the Jags. I mean, they're a bit of a different situation when you're looking at the division. I call it 40-40-20, and you have the Texans down at that 20. The interesting note as well for the Colts, the only head-to-head relevant they have is the Chiefs. If the Chiefs win and the Colts lose, that floor of 50 probably becomes a floor of 35. So the doomsday scenario for the Colts is they lose this game, pretty likely, and the Chiefs the Chiefs win their game. That creates this mega nightmare situation for the Colts. But as you mentioned, or as I mentioned here, it's really like the Jags and Colts around 40% of the pie, the Texans holding around 20.
If the Colts don't make the playoffs off the way that they started, it would be a damn shame. But we're going to look at Daniel Jones and say, you are who you are. Pete Prisco's favorite saying. And then in retrospect, with Trevor Lawrence and all the hype and the contract that he signed and the great quarterback that he's supposed to be, I'd be willing to say if they don't make the playoffs, I'd say the same thing. You are what you are. But looking at this matchup, I think the most interesting thing is Jonathan Taylor, the NFL's best running back, versus the Jaguars defense, which is number one in rush defense. And when you look at this Colts team, their offense primarily goes through Jonathan Taylor. I know Daniel Jones played really well at the beginning of the season, and we were talking about him and highlighting how much better he was playing than he was in New York. But this ship really runs on the back of Jonathan Taylor's. And when they lose, when they don't play well, you notice that Jonathan Taylor's stats aren't what they should be, whether he doesn't get the amount of carries because they're playing from behind and they can't really get him going, or because the defense just had a really good game plan, kept him in a box, tackled in numbers, and didn't allow him to get going with the run game. So if the Jaguars can limit Jonathan Taylor, I'd say keep him under 100 yards, maybe under 90 yards. I think they got a pretty good shot at winning this game.
It's interesting because right now we do have the Colts winning this game, 27-25.
Okay.
What is interesting to me is obviously we're looking at past data with a model that goes to last season's, that also goes to previous 4 games. When Jonathan Taylor a few weeks ago had that 250-plus run game, right, that is skewing what he is able to do. So right now in a model, we have him projected to go for an obscene amount of yards because of what he did in that one game. But outside of that, he hasn't been relevant. So I'm thinking if we just extract that one game from the past 4 weeks, and if we also extract some of the data from the Jags run D last year that was terrible, because that's still kind of baked into the model, I do think this would go from us having the Colts winning by 2 to probably the Jags winning by 2.
So, by the way, Colts I don't think have won in Jacksonville about a decade.
They got a Jacksonville problem.
They do. We saw the Texans on that graphic there. They have been hot, and they can really do the 2-for-1 here, which is then bury the Chiefs and also increase their chances. How so? If they're able to win this week.
If the Chiefs are able to win.
No, if the Texans are able to beat the Chiefs, they would bury KC and also elevate their numbers, I would assume.
Exactly. This is like a double whammy of just trying to get the win on your schedule, but then knocking off a head-to-head and wildcard contention as well. So these are the type of teams. The AFC the cut line's looking like 10 wins. The NFC is probably around 11. But you're looking at the Chiefs, they're the 5th best odds to get to those 10 wins, right? Around a 56% chance to even be in the conversation, to even make the cut line here. So obviously winning this game becomes very, very crucial. You mentioned it. Houston is on a roll and we get a massive bump, 59% and 85% with a win, because this is one of their hardest games on the schedule. And like every other wild card contender in the AFC, those head-to-heads do become massive. Now, we do like the Chiefs in this game. And this is honestly the first season we've actually liked the Chiefs a lot in power rankings as well. We've always been waiting on their downfall, and this is actually the one year we're kind of into them. What I will say for them, if they lose this game, they go down to a 9% chance to make the playoffs, which I'm going to call a playoff eliminator here. So they are in win or go home mode. If anyone's going to do it, as we know, it's going to be Patrick Mahomes here, but a win here would keep them above water around 54%.
Yeah, I was going to say, if they lose this game, go and give them a big fat 0, because they're not going to make the playoffs. Now, Mackenzie, I love what you just said. If anybody can do it, I mean, it's Patrick Mahomes. We've seen that year in and year out, and until we see something different, we have to believe what we've seen in the past, and that's Patrick Mahomes is more than likely going to be in the playoffs and more than likely going to be in the AFC Championship. But not to get too far ahead of ourselves, because this Houston Texans defense, Tommy Tran, did you see what they did to Josh Allen? Do you see how they've been terrorizing the rest of the NFL lately? Danielle Hunter, Will Anderson Jr. have been wreaking absolute havoc. And if I know one thing about this Chiefs team,